So this is the second theme, a big contrast to all the rhythmic stuff before. It's spacious and sweeping, lovely, lovely music. It's an octave lift, take the melody up an octave. And another octave lift. And there's a lot of things happening in this sequence that starts here. So first of all, there's like a rhythmic ambiguity. The right hand seems to be in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1. But the left hand, and especially the pedal markings, suggest that it's in 2. The bar before, it's in 2 in the right hand as well. And now but harmonically is the real magic. So it's a circle of fifth progression, but it's kind of hidden. So on the third beat we get the root in the chord on F minor 7, F to B flat, to B, so B flat 7, to E flat. So if you just take the left hand, we can just see the direction, and the pattern is continues. So this is the circle of fifth pattern all the time if it's in the left hand, like going down. But the chords, because the root comes only on the third beat, it's a bit ambiguous and a bit hidden. But still, B flat and these chromatic suspensions on top. So kind of craving the resolution to E flat with a leading note to E flat, but it's only E flat there, and then it's A flat, and the G here is the major 7 and A flat, and again this is the D diminished 7, that's part of the circle of fifth, and then going to G. So the music goes over faster than you have time to hear this. It just makes it a floating thing. But the pattern of circle of fifths is there in the left hand. And when it comes back, it's clearer, as we will see. Anyway, we end up on E flat major. That's the final resolution of the cadence. But again, the theme has already started as the final part of the cadence. That's a 2-5-1, F minor, B flat, 7, E flat major. So we have this circular melody. The melodic fragment is both the last part and the first part. Chopin also employs this thing in a nocturne in B major, opus 62 number 1. You can check it out. I've got an analysis on that. Amazing stuff, really gluing together the music here. So get the melody stated again here. And a new chord is a C7, so E natural instead of E flat. A little bit exciting. But okay, it was just a cadence, an extended cadence going back to E flat major again. It's exciting here though, but going back. And here starts like the second part of the second theme. This is even more kind of relaxed and laid back because we get the same harmony for a whole bar at a time. Just staying within E flat major here. And B flat 7 dominant with the tonic pedal, E flat in the bass, really relaxed. Some movement, but still. And this is something you get in the early Chopin sometimes, but never in the late. In the late Chopin, he always like keeps it interesting harmonically, but in the early works you can get these sections where it's very relaxed in this way. Also, the melodic fragment here, recognize that contour, it's the same as, but here it's major, and in another setting, but it's the same. Okay, this inner voice is so lovely. And it continues to this note in the left hand. And I have to mention this chord, A flat minor. It's like a borrowed chord in E flat major tonality. Very poignant. We get it again. Octave lift in the melody. This is really one of my favorite places in this. One of many favorite places, but because it's relatively easy compared to the rest, you can just enjoy it. Okay, now we get a pattern, a sequence, and it's going harmonically in thirds. So E flat up to G minor, up to B flat major, up to D minor, so E flat, G minor, B flat major, D minor, going in thirds diatonically, and ending up, so we're switching the character from major to minor in this way. And it grinds to a halt, rallentando kind of dies out, and here the first theme inserts itself again. But now it's a transformed character. Get this spooky. So it's over a pedal point, an E, that's a dominant. It's now in A minor, just another key where we ended up. And we have these like heartbeats. Boom, boom, boom. And again, this chord, it's a D minor over E. So we have super dissonant, super nice, or spooky. Maybe major. Then, whoa, what was that? Let's pretend it didn't happen. Nope, can't pretend it didn't happen. It's like an outburst from nowhere, or it's this tension that's under the surface. It's there, and it pops up here. Suddenly, Scherzando, and so it's kind of a restless recitativo. This keeps on pushing. And it pushes on to break through the obstacle. We get the second theme again, but now it's transformed to a triumphant statement. So the theme before is in A minor, but we get stuck on this diminished chord. We kind of forget where the tonic is. But then it's an E7, it's a dominant, but it could lead back to A minor. But instead, of course, Chopin surprises us and flips it to major. That's how it gets this surprising character. So now it's one page of the second theme, triumphant, really fleshed out. You remember nocturne version. Now double chords in left hand, octaves in right hand, and chord notes. recognize this by now, right? When the melody comes down here. It's the end of the phrase and the start of the theme again. It's glued together. Oh, double octave lift here, amazing. Okay, now this sequence in the middle, so we have the circular fifth progression again, and now it's in a different way. So first of all, it's rhythmically stable here. It's no of these 3 against 2. It's very firmly in 2. And we can see the root is doing the progression on the first beats. Sorry, and so on. But what Chopin does, that's tricky. If we only play the first chord on the beat, this is a F sharp minor 7, going to B minor, going to E7, to A, to D major 7, and then he's breaking it. But after the first beat, Chopin adds this, so it's instead of F sharp 7, he turns it into a D on the way between F sharp major 7, F sharp minor to B minor. B minor 7, E7, but turns it to C sharp minor, to A, D major 7, turns it to B minor. So he's filling out this circular fifth progression that's all the time like morphing, going between, using the harmony to make magic. Now we get some new stuff here, some nice octave runs in the right hand, and we stick on an E as a pedal point in the left hand. Like pushing chromatically upwards with diminished chords. And finally, the culmination, coming down, another half diminished chord, but now it's different setting. So all this force that's built up, now this force is transformed to velocity. So it's coming down in dynamic, but it's increasing in tempo, basically, più animato. And actually, guess what this is? Reminds you of anything? Well, it's what I call the closing motive, where we get first. It's just this configuration, or the contour. It's here as well, but different exact intervals, but the same contour. And it kind of offset rhythmically and squeezed into as a hemiola, but like backwards. But it repeats so. Now we get this run up that feels really uneven, and it's really tricky to not get locked in the hand when you do this. But it's actually only like a scale of B flat, or it's a scale of 8 notes starting on the B flat, and then B flat, same scale. That's half of the notes of the right hand. Then you're outlining a diminished chord on the other half. But these 8 notes are stretched out to fit the 6-note meter of 6 quarter notes in a bar. So that's why it feels really uneven. But it's not, it's a system to the madness. So here we reach this scherzando part, like a middle developmental section that grows organically, of course. So So the right hand has these fast eighth notes in a moto perpetuum configuration, never-ending movement, but the material is actually something we've heard before. It's the closing motive contour, but it's some variation. By the way, Chopin is amazing with these types of textures. He does it in Fantasy Impromptu and the waltz in C sharp minor in Opus 64. You have the same kind of texture of continuous going fast notes in the right hand. Here the left hand has this kind of humorous thing of hitting the wrong note of the chord. When you jump, it makes it really fun character. He's actually written a whole etude on the wrong note, Opus 25. So this is really fun to play when you get the hang of it. It's quite fast though, so it takes a while. Now we get some increased chromaticism in the right hand especially. And the left hand kind of sequence pushing up here. Down, and now expand with chords and quicker harmonic pulse. And we get some nice scales and arpeggios to get the culmination point. Until we end up on a E flat major with a B flat in the bass. Kind of pointing towards E flat major with a dominant in the bass, but we go back to the light scherzo character, leggermente, lightly and swiftly. And E flat major, lovely scale over the whole register. He also does that in the Fantasy in F minor, big scale from the top to down to really call attention to now something's happening. By the way, I just skipped over, we have this rhythm here. This is almost a Polonaise rhythm. The Polonaise rhythm is in 3. Bum ba bum 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 ba bum 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 bum. It's not exactly that, but it's almost like that. So Polonaise is a dance from Poland. Chopin wrote a lot of Polonaises. This is a ballad, not a Polonaise, but it's like a hint of it just here to get the really pompous, majestic feel to it. Okay, so we've landed here on the B flat. Again, the start of the melody is the final part of the cadence, resolving. This is the second theme again. It's the return of the second theme for the second time. So it's the third time we hear it. Again, it's in fortissimo, triumphant, but now it's with bubbling energy in the left hand underneath. So lovely to play. So it's kind of raising the stakes a little bit more with these quintuplets in the melody and the two voices that brush up against each other chromatically. So I'm actually doing a bit of cheating here. I skipped the lower voice of the upbeat. I play because it's super hard to get this right, and I bailed out on this, and this way I can control it, and it sounds really nice, I think, with a high chance of getting it right. But more importantly, harmonically, it's the same circle of fifth. Now the chords are right, but now the bass is stuck with a B flat pedal point underneath, and it creates more tension. But let's just check the chord and the melody. So it's C major to F minor, to B flat 7, to E flat major, to A flat, and then to this. It's D diminished, but we don't have D in the bass. To G7, to C, and then he breaks off. But with the pedal point, it gets more stable and cool. Really long arpeggio in the left hand here. This trill is impossible, I feel, so I do a short, but like on the beat. Like that. And a lot of ritardando to hear this extra voice of quarter notes coming in here. And we now get the same second part as the first time. So the second time it's kind of interrupted with a scherzando section. Now we get the full section with long resonating chords. This octave sprinkles is extended 2 octaves. So it ends the same way as the first time, but it ends in another key, so it's not exactly the same. So the first time it goes up in thirds in a sequence. Now this sequence is cut short, so we end up back with a D in the bass. So this is going back to G minor now, finally, after the whole piece. So this is where the first theme comes back in the spooky version again. Recitativo taking over. And this time it's not overcoming and transforming into the glorious second theme. Now it's going to minor, and this is something else. Really making a point of a clear cadence. D6/4, and it's amazing sixth in the melody. D7 dominant 7 with an extra E flat. That's a flat 9, diminished feeling. And here starts the famous and furious Coda, presto con fuoco, very fast with fire. So he introduces new material here in a very fast tempo, and it's something he likes to do in other large-scale pieces as well. For example, the fourth ballad and the barcarolle also have this kind of crazy codas with new stuff. But harmonically it's quite straightforward. So it's D minor, and this is the A half diminished to D7 to G. It's the same harmony as half diminished, D7, G minor, but completely different setting. Anyway, but even if it's straightforward in a musical way, it takes a lot of time to learn because it's very fast when you want to have it up in presto tempo. So like months of practice, even for me. And when we get to this place, just a A flat to D, G minor. I love how this is described by Alan Rusbridger. He's an editor at The Guardian. He's written a book about learning this piece called Play It Again, An Amateur Against the Impossible. So he's an amateur pianist, but he loves this piece and written a book about his journey learning it. It's a really good book, I can recommend it. And he writes about this very place: a nightmare for the right hand, which is required to perform death-defying trapeze artist leaps in midair. That's what it is to be a pianist sometimes. Go for a second round. Now left hand gets octave, more steady bass. And pushing up with kind of sequence, left hand, chromatic, diminished. This is like a heavy rock, just pumping on those beats. Same chords, G minor, A half diminished, D dominant 6/4, D7, and now variation extra chromatic on the right hand. And it all comes crumbling down. This is actually very easy because it's the same. And finally reach a low D octave. It's like an echo of how the piece starts, just a low octave. So this is the start of the very last part. We're still in a lot of energy. So we come down, now we go up. And these notes in the right hand, they are very unimportant as notes in themselves because they are so quick. It's just one gesture. It's not, because it's so fast. You just move your fingers and your hands. Like, this is one movement. And then, like that. But in order to be able to play that, you have to practice them as individual notes to really get the right muscle movements in your hand slowly, and then you speed up and it sounds super impressive. So reach the low again. It's like playing ping pong over the registers here. So now we get the dreaded parallel scales. The first one is not that hard because it's parallel octaves. So it's a G minor melodic scale. So it's minor with a minor third and then major when you reach the top. And there's a break, and then we have this like recitativo section. That's all this energy, it suddenly stops and we have this. It's like some funeral chords or chorale or something, and then the recitativo just takes over. Very unstable, like eccentric ritenuto and accelerando, pianoforte, big contrast. And this contour, recognize it? Of course, it's the same contour as the first theme. But it's in a new setting, and not exactly the same, but it's an echo. Okay, this is the really hard one. Now it's in parallel 10th. Same scale, but now the melodic minor comes to life when you play it in thirds or tenths like this. But it should be like twice as fast. It's really hard. Not really. Something like that. Again, chords. And now it's the final statement. And it's like all the tension throughout the piece is condensed to this statement. It's really on life and death. It can't be more tense. Forte fortissimo, it's a tritone, all registers. And double octaves, just G, it turns into a chromatic scale. And you just have one pedal. So the whole coda kind of still takes me by surprise when I'm performing this, because it's so much more dramatically intense than the rest of the piece. Even with all the big climaxes, they are romantic Chopin climaxes. This is like Beethoven angry in the coda. But it's part of the charm and what makes the ballad into the special piece it is. Thanks for watching Sonata Secrets. A special shout out to my Patreon sponsors Jay Sprout, Jay Sennett and Jay Brady.